Whiskey for the pain.
Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Colton Ogburn, and we need to talk about Together, a new body horror thriller starring Allison Brie and Dave Franco, who are actually married in real life, by the way. Now, a little later, I want to discuss the big controversy and lawsuit surrounding this film, but first, let's talk about the movie and its deeper hidden meaning, some hidden details that you might have missed, and of course, that ending. So, this film not only explored the fears of commitment and codependency, but it dove deep into Plato's theory of soulmates, told through myth in the Symposium, featuring a story by playwright Aristophanes, a myth that in this film is believed to be true by an ancient cult. So the film opens with Millie and Tim moving out of the city into a quiet country home. Tim is an aspiring musician, but Millie has gotten a teaching job in their new town. And this is the first strain on their relationship, as Tim would prefer to stay in the city and feels as if he is being ripped from his life and now trapped living another person's dreams. A perfect foreshadowing of the literal physical merger to come. Now, before the big move, we get this super awkward proposal scene where Tim feels slightly emasculated and embarrassed with Millie popping the question to him in front of all these people, and then Millie is understandably mortified by Tim's delayed response and awkward silence and disbelief. And this was a great way of showing us our first little nods at the fears of intimacy, commitment, and the fear of becoming codependent. And there are so many great lines in the film that, yes, on their surface, they are foreshadowing the actual physical horror of the film, but really they have a deeper meaning about the status of the relationship between these two people. Such as when Tim says that when he dies, he doesn't want to see someone else's life flash before his eyes. Or later in the film when Jamie says that complacency can often be confused with harmony. This movie is a terrifying, disturbing, creepy body horror cult movie, yes, but it's commentary on the tightrope that we all walk in our own lives when we merge our life and our ambitions and our hopes and our dreams with someone else's, merging to the point that it becomes harder and harder to untangle, eventually becoming one existence. And you know, that's another great line that we hear in the film when Millie says, if we don't split now, it will be harder later. Now, the first time it's said is in the context of them needing to maybe break up, but then it is said again later in the movie when they are about to literally saw themselves apart. And then, of course, there's that "we took the plunge" phrase on Millie and Tim's Facebook page, alluding to them not only taking the plunge of committing themselves to one another by buying a home and kind of getting engaged, I think, but also the literal plunge that they take into the depths of that collapsed church where the Plato cult once resided. So speaking of the cult, let's explain what exactly it is that they were doing and what they believed in and how it ties to Greek mythology and Plato's Symposium. So Plato's The Symposium is one of his most popular philosophical writings. The text explores love, beauty, and the purpose behind human desire. In the Symposium, Plato discussed his takes on the concept of a soulmate through the fictional speech of the character Aristophanes. Now, this myth claims that in the past, the original humans had 4 arms, 4 legs, and 2 faces, which is exactly what we saw down in the hole toward the end of the film with the missing couple who fought their merging and didn't embrace the harmony. And we'll talk more about them here in a sec. Now, in the myth, it is said that these creatures were very powerful and proud beings that tried to challenge the gods of Mount Olympus. So, in response, Zeus split them in 2 in order to weaken them and thus created modern man. And each split being now longed to find their other half and rejoin in matrimony. They longed for their soulmate. So this story is meant to explain through metaphor the concept of love and feeling whole when you find your other half, as well as the anxieties that can come with trying to find that partner and not getting trapped with the wrong partner.
Other person, are you biting your lips again?
Yeah, man, it's a horrible habit I have, especially when I'm feeling anxious or nervous, but I'm actually getting better at it because I have replaced this bad oral fixation habit with a positive one by using Fume. They are the sponsor of this video. And I'm sure you guys have your own bad habits that you'd like to quit, especially in social situations when you are feeling anxious or just bored. For me, Fume has been a game changer. Fume doesn't use smoke or vapor, just natural flavored air that gives you something to reach for without the chemicals. Studies have shown that quitting a habit cold turkey is actually really bad for you, so I liked having something to reach for when I feel the urge, and it's an alternative to other harmful habits. Fume is an award-winning flavored air device that doesn't use combustion, and it's not even electronic. You can use it anywhere. There's no smoke, no vapor, no chemicals, just naturally flavored air. You see, it just has these plant-based course, it tastes great, and they just introduced mango, my new favorite flavor. It's bolder than past flavors that I've tried, and I recommend it if you want to switch things up. These are non-toxic flavors and a guilt-free alternative with natural ingredients. But also I love the magnetic, fidget-friendly design that makes this incredibly satisfying sound. Guys, more than 500,000 people have already added Fume to their daily routine, and I totally get why. It's simple, satisfying, and it doesn't come with any of the downsides of your old habits. And right now, if you order the Journey Pack using my code ScreenCrush, you will get a free Fume topper. It's this little rubber piece so you can chew the end, and it is great for oral fixation anxiety. So if you've been thinking about changing your habits, this is the perfect first step. So go to tryfume.com/ScreenCrush or scan the QR code on screen to grab yours today. Now, back to what I was saying. So we see Tim and Millie take the plunge and move out to the country, and then take the literal plunge down into this hole where the cult's magic fountain resides. After drinking from the pool, they both unknowingly have linked themselves and are now destined to become one. But really, that linking had already begun when they decided to move to this town in the first place. It's also in the cave that we got a reveal about Tim's childhood and the dead rat that was rotting in his room. This whole story was very reminiscent of the frog and boiling water analogy, which perfectly applies to the entire premise of this film. That boiling water analogy is essentially a fable that is used to depict the gradual changes in one's life, even the negative changes that don't become evident really until it's too late to change them. So for Tim, he didn't notice the smell of the dead rat in his own room because it was his room. Think of it like how your house probably has a your house smell that you aren't aware of because you're always there, but you do notice the house smells of other people's houses. Or you may even notice your own house smell if you've been away from your home for a few days and then you come back and you're like, oh, that's what my house smells like. Essentially, Tim was the frog sitting in the boiling water as that rat gradually began to rot very slowly, so slowly that his sense of smell just adapted to it and never picked up on it being an obscure smell. And that brilliantly foreshadows how Tim feels like he has now, once again, slowly, gradually cemented himself into now a relationship that may have had metaphorically the smell of a rotting rat, but he didn't notice it until it was too late, aka until they had already taken the plunge. In many ways, Tim finding that dead rat at their new house was a full circle moment of Tim feeling like this entire time, this entire relationship has led to this point where he has now once again found that dead rat, a dead rat that he wasn't aware of, but now he very much so is. Now, there's also his disturbing and traumatizing experience with his mother and dead father lying in bed together. His mother and father represent the commitment and codependency that Tim fears after seeing how the death of his father left his mother broken and feeling unwhole. Okay, so not much was revealed about the cult itself, which is probably a good thing because that's not really relevant to the film. This isn't a movie about cults, it's a movie about love versus autonomy. Now, when it is revealed that Jamie is a fusion, two people who are now one and living in harmony, we see that it is their peace, their acceptance, their complacency that grants them this harmony. And when we see Millie punch Jamie, causing temporary pain, Jamie briefly, slightly unmerges, revealing to us how discomfort and individual pain broken from that harmony can result in the more gnarly version of a fused being, like we see with the missing couple that didn't submit to the harmony and fought the merge till the bitter end, unwilling to sacrifice their own lives for their conjoined life. But for Millie and Tim, it was their willingness to sacrifice their independence and their autonomy by taking their own lives to spare the other. That is what ultimately leads to them reaching that harmony that the missing couple just never could, and now resulting in them having a much more cohesive harmony as compared to the other missing couple. Tim was about to cut his own throat to save Millie and give her her own life, when he could have just as easily killed her to save his own life. Tim willing to make that sacrifice so that Millie could have a life is the moment that it became clear to Tim that he was in fact willing to give up his life both figuratively and literally, and that finally cemented his end of the complacency and harmony that needed to be achieved. And the same is true for Millie when she stopped him from taking his own life and wanted Tim to instead let her die so that he could have his life. And with Tim's refusal to let her go, and the two both having reached a point where they realized that they could not live without the other, that is when we got the fusion. a fusion resulting in an androgynous individual who I have seen being referred to as Tilly. And this too plays into Plato's text about the three sexes, male, female, and intersex, which includes both male and female. These beings from Greek mythology with 4 arms, 4 legs, and 2 faces didn't recognize sex and gender as a binary, but instead a trinary. So what this story is really tackling is the feeling of independence coming with the downside of loneliness, while on the other hand, the feeling of fulfillment and wholeness with another individual can come with the downside of losing your freedom. In order to have the benefits of being fully independent and living your life the way you want to live it without taking into account anyone else's feelings but your own, then you must sacrifice the pleasures and the safety of having a partner. While on the other hand, if you do want to have the benefits of being able to lean on someone, having a partner for every battle you face, and the comfort of knowing that you're never going to be alone in the good times and the bad, then you must sacrifice your independence and your freedom and leave your selfish tendencies at the door. You must become one. You must be a unit. This movie is essentially saying that you can't have both. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't be separate and together. You can either be apart and alone or together and trapped. And that deformed, more mythically accurate creature that we saw with the missing couple, that is meant to represent the disjointed yet simultaneously conjoined nature of living your life and treating your relationship as having one foot out the door. So I really enjoyed this film. It was weird, it was scary, it was original, or was it? Well, that's being litigated right now. Neon, the distributor behind the film, has been sued for alleged copyright infringement on the 2023 film Better Half, which has a similar concept to Together. Allegedly, Better Half was pitched to Alison Brie and Dave Franco in August of 2020, who allegedly declined to star in the film because they wanted to produce it themselves. But writer and director Michael Shanks denied these allegations, claiming that he wrote this script for Together and registered his draft back in 2019, with the story being inspired by his own relationship with his wife. So, who's really at fault here? Who's telling the truth? I don't know, but I do hope that whoever is guilty in this situation gets what they have coming, legally speaking, because plagiarism is lame. But hey, controversy aside, I did enjoy the film. I think we're in a horror renaissance right now that could save the entire movie theater industry, and I think Together is the latest installment of that mission to do so. But I want to hear what you guys thought about the film down in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts and theories and what you thought about the movie. And if you're new here, be sure to subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified every time we upload a new video. For ScreenCrush, I'm Colton Ogburn.